Greetings, dears. So I rather thought during the gratitudes and gifts that it sounds like the group's just sort of falling apart or knowing those who are, eh? So the first thing that I would suggest for this coming month is be careful with you and make sure that you stay as healthy as you can. I'm realizing as I say that and looking around that some of these big things aren't because of health as much as extenuating circumstances, nevertheless. So, last time we were together like this, we talked about soldiering on. How was the month for you?
Soldiering on. Yeah.
Soldiering on. Eh? And what does that mean to you, to say you are soldiering on? Eh?
Well, it means that you may be faced with a challenge and you can resist it or you can accept it and work with it and try to adapt and be flexible with it.
Good.
And after a brief period of resistance, I realized that it's futile and that really trying to work with it the best I can, trying to find ways to adapt and learning patience, learning to allow my body to heal, to allow myself just to be with what I need to do and not do. And there's a lot of not do. But for someone like me who's extremely active, it's been a huge challenge. So soldiering on for me is just like it is what it is. You know?
Keep up, keep going.
Do what you can. Don't be afraid. It will happen as it needs to, and ask for help. And that's a big one too. That's part of soldiering on for me, is asking for help, because I don't like to.
Right.
So it's been an exercise in being strong by allowing.
Good. Aye.
For me, it's that reminder that I create my life. I'm in control of my life, and that when things don't go the way I like, I need to look at options and look at what's happening and what I have the power to change and what I can't change.
Good.
How to accept that and adapt to it.
Nice. Very nice. Aye.
Just seeing every opportunity, every trigger as an opportunity.
Good.
And I think the soldiering on part is being willing to clear and clear and clear until you get to the truth of the matter.
Good.
And thank the person that's triggering you, because they're giving you an incredible gift, because they're showing you things that are normally buried in your personality and you can't easily get to them.
And you know that when you reach that point that you're actually grateful for what has been a unhappy situation, that you're actually grateful for it, that's how you know you have forgiven all that needs forgiving. That's how you know that you are complete with that lesson. Because you cannot see the good when you're still working in the middle of it. Now, I'm not talking about the cheaters who say, all right, let's see, well, one good thing is, and they're just looking to fill in the blank. I mean, when your heart recognizes, this was good for me. This has changed me. That's big. That's huge. Aye.
Soldiering on for me has meant working to keep my eye on the greater vision and not getting distracted by
Very
the
good.
side skirmishes and
1001.
yes, and which can be very distracting, which can be very ego involving, which can create a lot of confusion. But the greater vision is what's most important, and
Good.
just not giving up.
Not giving up. Yes, that's good. Aye.
I think recognizing my strength
Good.
has been the part of the soldiery thing. There's just a lot of things that happen in the Haley clan, from the creatures to the people and things, and somehow or the other, it just, I just manage it, just do what has to be done. Ref's coming your way.
I'm looking forward to him. He's been a good boy. Did I see hands over here? Lilibeth, David, and I cannot see you back there at all.
Okay. A lot of what everyone has said has been woven into what I was thinking too, but I think there's also a point for me that learning to know when to release
Good.
and to have the big picture always in front of you. And so that sometimes comes from a path of so many distractions like Stephen was talking about. And beliefs of loyalty and of guardianship and everything that goes into putting yourself out there to help and to know when to not.
When you can help, when you cannot help, when you should help, when you should not help. Aye. Well, that takes wisdom, doesn't it? And wisdom comes about how?
Knowledge tried.
That's right. By putting what you know into life. And occasionally that means, oh, it all works out just great. And occasionally that means, I'm learning from that. And if you miss the part of, I'm learning from that, then you get to try again and again and again. The universe is so nice that way.
Before my father passed, he was in a lot of pain. And I asked him, I said, how are you? He goes, oh, I'm fine. I said, Dad, you look like you're in a lot of pain. And he goes, oh, I am, but what can you do about it? And there's a lot to be said for that, because there are some things that you can do about it. You shouldn't ignore those. There's some things you can't. So I've been trying to figure out, and I think I have. I've had a good month in terms of figuring out what can I do, what can't I do. And it's easier to let go of something if there's nothing I can do about it, because it's not. I have no control over it. I can't control what's going on in the government. I can do some parts to things, but I can't let the frustration of things that are going on, the big plastic mountains in the ocean, it hurts me. There's little things I can do, but I can't every day go, oh my God, this is happening, the world's terrible, because the world's not terrible. There are things that can be fixed. And there are things that I know I can fix, which would be I can work on my health. I can work on my creativity and enjoyment of life, and helping others. And that's what I've done. That's what I got out of the month.
And learning what you can and cannot do, looking at what you cannot do anything about, and realizing when that's not meant to be a challenge. You know what I'm saying there? Oh, I can't do this. I'm going to make it happen anyway. Is how most individuals learn to hate themselves. Learn to not be quite that dramatic, but learn to no longer respect themselves. Learn to have very bad self-image. By determining that they're going to let go of all they can do to change what they cannot. And there are times that what's going on in the world is beyond what you can do something about. And as David said, there are monster island-size masses of plastic that are killing creatures in the ocean, that are a sad, destructive statement about modern usage of items and caring nothing about the discarding. But what you can do, of course, is handle what's going on around you and change your own usage patterns and use renewable resources and on and on. That's very true. But some, and I'm looking at this room and will say many of you actually, have had times in your life in which you've seen something that you determined was your issue, and you needed to do something about it, and you banged your head against the wall and banged your head against the wall and banged your head against the wall until all it did was injure your thoughts of what you could do. And in the big picture, individuals do that because they do not want to know that they can be successful in other things. I am here to be I'm going to change the way for all the dolphins in the world. And some things aren't your fight. And knowing when something is not your fight and being able to back away from it takes a strength that, as I said a moment ago, is the kind of thing that only comes from wisdom. And wisdom comes from having gone through it and realizing what you do and do not need. It's very hard in this world to set your sights on something and not get there. But what's hard isn't that you're not getting there. It's that you start questioning all of your ability to make decisions about what you should and should not go to. Handle your world. You are the center of your universe. You really are. And when you take care of your world, you give yourself the successes that expand your world a little more and a little more and a little more. So that you're not, tilting at windmills? Seems like the windmills would be tilting. I'm not sure I've got that right. It is that fight. Because your confidence in what you can do changes bit by bit, success by success. And before you know it, you're not having to fight to make something happen. You're simply taking care of your backyard, and you've made the contacts, and you've made the connections, and you've done the work that allows you to make a bigger step. It's very hard to go with that. Humans want to take a running leap and just have that end product. It's very hard. So that's a big one. That's a real big one. Soldiering on has a lot to do with what has been going on in 2018. Learning what you can do something about and what you cannot do something about. Being flexible and adaptable with that has been a lesson for most guardians. It's good. But you're no longer in soldier time. Now we're looking at December.
Okay.
And December is going to be wrapping up your year as you list it, yes? And it has lovely, lovely holidays throughout. December has many birthdays. And if you are a part of the Western culture, December is very much, for many, many people, about a massive birthday, a very important birthday. We'll get to that in a bit. But before it was about any one birthday, it was about a birth of something quite off this planet. Well, I guess the one that you celebrate is from off this planet as well, isn't it? And that is the birth of the sun, the return of the sun. Your times have been getting darker and darker. But the ancient ones knew that there was a point in every year that things would again start becoming brighter. And those who have been hungry during the winter would be able to plan for and plant for springtime and renewal and starting fresh again. And the Festival of Light is probably my favorite of your December holidays. The birthday, sort of the sun as it returns. So maybe you would say it is the reincarnation. It's coming back. How's it going to be this year? And December is always an important month for planning what you want your new year to be about and what you need to do to make it happen. So I want you to think about some of those things. December also tends to be a very high-stress month for many who get involved in elaborate Christmas productions. It can also be very stressful financially. It can be stressful for dealing with personalities that you're not used to being around. Family that you do not spend that much time with on a regular basis. Anytime you're meeting somebody new, or somebody that is supposed to be very, very close to you, but is not, which is what parent-child relationships can sometimes be. It's very much like meeting somebody new every time. You know, you've got those people in your life that when you're around them, it's like you've been with them every day. And then there are those that when you're around them, you wish you weren't with them every day.
Or even that day.
Or even that day. And so stresses also come about from that. So before I talk to you a whole lot about where I'm going with December, I want to talk to you for a moment about dealing with stress. I want to remind you first off that good stress has the very same kind of effect on your body as bad stress. And it's always about balance. Balance. Not going off on making the holiday the most exciting, fun, busy one you've ever had. And not going off on how miserable and commercial and unpleasant people can be under stress. Not worried about what's it going to be like at the end of the month. Stress eats you up, and it does it slowly. And I know that there are several in here and in the extended audience who are a part of the medical field, and you just stop for a moment and think, because you know oh so well what stress does to the body. Particularly in Kentucky, I suppose, cancer is one of those big diseases that you hear a lot about. And cancer works by having overactive cellular production, more or less, continuing a broken bit of cellular information, until you more or less have a big body mistake inside of you. Stress is cancer. Very slowly it starts out, and it eats away at what's good in your life. It takes the color out of your world, little bit by little bit. And way too often, by the time you notice it, it has become a habit. And habits are very hard to break. Your body has created defense mechanisms, and you have learned to work around them. These are dangerous things in a stress situation. What stresses you out? And although I'm not asking you to do it right now, I'd like to ask you, as your homework this month, well, maybe your homework this week, the sooner you get a handle on it, the better, to think about 5 things that are stressing you out. If you can come up with 10 or 15, all the better. The more that you can think about, this is a stress. Don't separate it out into this is a big stress, this is just a little stress. Your body reads stress the same. It's reading how often, the consistency of it as different. This stress just happens once in a while, not too bad, but this stress happens a lot. That's dangerous for you. So I'd like for you to actually think about the stresses that are going on in your life and roll your mind back to what was discussed by those who were talking about soldiering on and how they were doing that. Forgiveness helps a lot to alleviate stress. Somehow, what does forgiveness have to do with my being overextended? Well, you want to forgive yourself for making the decision to go that way. And because human nature is to turn outside things that are bothering you inside, there is the tendency to see work as the blame or a family as the blame, when you were the one who said you'd handle dinner this year, or you feel obligated to get presents for everybody who's going to be there, and on it goes. So there is that aspect of forgiving others, but only as it moves right into your lap and you can see how you are a part of that as well. So forgiveness is a very big part. Look to see what is giving you success. And I should clarify that that means success in positive ways. Because some of you can be really successful with negative things in your life. So think about the positive things that you're having successes with and transfer the reminder that I can do that, so I can do this. And come from a place of strength rather than a place of fear. Stress needs mental quiet. And some people only give time for that in their hours of sleep. And while that will work to create some very interesting dreams, for sure, because your mind's just trying to put so much together, it also makes for a rather poor kind of sleep. But if you can give yourself 10 minutes, and if you can't give yourself 10 minutes, give yourself 5 minutes of just sitting quietly. Now, I'm not talking, all right, I had 5 minutes in the shower and I wasn't doing other things and I was being quiet. I'm not talking about that. I mean, sit, breathe. I'm going to remind you of an exercise I've given before. It's so useful. It is the way to meditate, really. Simply be aware, I'm breathing in right now, I'm breathing out right now. And if you have trouble with that focus, if you find that your mind just keeps giving you all kinds of little messages reminding you, oh, listen to the clock, I better hurry up, or I hear the television on, what am I going to watch tonight? Give yourself a very small focus. Visualize a dot. A dot. And when you breathe in, That dot races up, and when you breathe out, that dot comes back down. Make that dot a bright color. Maybe a fluorescent kind of color. And you're looking at that dot. You also can make it 2 dots. You breathe in, it opens up. You breathe out, it closes again. Now, of course, that's highly exaggerated. You want to just breathe. But by giving your mind that tiny focus, that's enough to start relieving physical and mental stress. Because you're focused on a relaxing intent. You're focused on breathing in, breathing out. You can't compete with yourself. I'm going to breathe twice this time. You're just breathing. If you cannot give yourself 5 minutes, try 3. Try 1. And increase until it's 5 to 10 minutes. The firm has a medical problem that creates insomnia. Now, this isn't, oh, I'm really tired, I want to fall asleep, but I cannot. It's does not sleep. No naps, no. So she has learned, what do you call it, Stuart, Frank? She has learned to pretend sleep.
Just lay there with her eyes closed.
Right. Possum, there you go. She plays possum. Which seems like she should be carrying little babies on her back and hanging out in dank places. Eh? There you go. That would be the reason right there. Plain possum, which is lays there, eyes closed, not responding. If you cannot give it 1 minute, play possum. Play possum and simply tell yourself, this is what it would look like if I was sleeping right now. I would just be breathing, my eyes would be closed. Do that. You will learn to get pretty good at it. But if you do not release stress in your life, it will kill you. It will come by another name, but it will kill you. It may come by the name of just walked in front of traffic, wasn't thinking, other things were on the mind. It may come by the name, there is this terrible illness forcing you to relax in ways you were not intending. It will kill you. And I want you to take this as a warning, because this time of year, stress exacerbates the negative in your life. If you might be a little cranky, stress will make you angry. If it may be that you were just going to be a little sad, stress will add to it in such a way that you are depressed. Work on the stress and give yourself a great gift. this holiday by learning to give yourself a break. All right? I said a bit earlier that this time of year, if you are in Western culture, I probably should have clarified that to be if you are in Christian culture, is pretty much a giant celebration of a birth, isn't it? So tell me about that. This isn't hard.
Jesus was born.
Jesus was born. And the whole story that goes with it. Jesus.
Mary had an immaculate conception. Joseph got together with her. They were paying taxes, landed in a barn, and she had the baby.
Well said. Well said. The one sentence Christmas story. Person got pregnant, baby born in manger. Or so the story says. But it was a very important birth. Why?
Because he brought the seeds
Yes.
for humanity. That was the light.
I'm good with that. That works. Looking at it in a Christian point of view, what was that birth a birth of? All right? Birth of love. A savior from what?
Sin.
Oh, well, that too. All right. If you want to get into that.
Son of God in form.
All right. Well, if you were, say, an Israeli person at the time under the boot of Rome, you probably were looking for the Messiah. The Messiah was the one spoken to come to pull the people out of slavery. Sounded sort of like a dog drooling, didn't it? That wasn't where I was going with that. And that birth was going to represent a winning of a war, so to speak. A triumph over an oppressor. A new beginning for the nation of Israel. All of those things were wrapped up into that poor little baby's birth. Talk about expectations. You think your family has expectations of you.
Stress.
That's right.
It took him 40 years in the desert to go the stress.
Well, actually, that was a lot earlier in the game. There were others who simply recognized the birth as that of a prophesied king, which is what Rome was worried about. If they think that this person is going to become a king, then perhaps we should get rid of this person to ensure that never would that king happen. The birth was a threat or a great gift, depending upon what it was about. And of course, later stories came up about it in which there was a massive star going by. You have a great comet moving by your planet these days. Are you ready to see that and follow it across the desert to see where it takes you? Find a birth and say, ha, that's it, that's where it goes. There were angels that came down to say, hey, look at this. This is something special. What do you want to notice? Look here. there were
The kings, the three kings.
the kings that took their camels across the desert following that star, handing out grave goods. Always makes sense as a good birthday present. It did. This makes you a rich person. Your funeral is taken care of already. Yes, lovely baby gift. Do not give it to one of your siblings' children. Not a good idea. And somewhere in all of that, Yule trees were taken over, Santa Claus was created. Maybe I should be talking about the birth of Santa Claus, eh? Reindeer began to fly, songs were sung. It just became a very holly jolly time. The best time of the year. And it all started with the idea of this birth. Now, there are birthdays this month. I've got one sitting right in front of me. I've got one experiencing it today. Tomorrow. The energy looks the same to me, though, right around that time. When you think about a birth, it's very easy at Christmas to only picture the little tiny helpless thing put into whatever was available, and all of the stories that add to the glamour of those people that born. I want to shift some of that aside. I know usually my December stories are playful and fun, and here I am about to be serious. Hate it when that happens. But I want to give a slightly different version of it, all right? Earth was in turmoil. There were nations that were conquering other nations. There was abuse of the planet itself in many, many ways. The age-old water issues are an example. The stream may move through your property as well, but all I have to do is divert that stream and I will have water you do not. In a desert area, that's not a good thing to do. There was a lack of unity in the world and a very strong need for power over. Petty politicians were gaining what they could out of their office, overcharging the poor and allowing the rich to become richer. It was a hard time to be human. Now, that's not to say that that's all there was on the planet, because there was also hope. And where you have hope, there will be potential. Hope, however, requires action to ever reach that potential. So the planet had hope. The people had hope. But they weren't willing to take the action needed for it to come to potential. They kept waiting for someone else to do it, including we are waiting for the Messiah to come. We are waiting for the prophesied one to take us out of this hard time. It's out there. It's not in here. I think I could do damage with this if I'm not careful. So, because a planet is never left to its full-on devices, because you are always protected, there were those who saw an opportunity to help bring about change. Now, of course, change in any dimension, change in any people is a scary thing. And so it was known that this wasn't going to be an immediate fix. That whatever happened would need to take time to bring about change. Now, in the Christmas story, you had a people whose belief system said that in order to create change, sacrifice was required. And many things were sacrificed, usually small animals. This is needed in my life. I will sacrifice this goat as an exchange. I will offer to you something very valuable as an exchange, because I have 5 goats, and my giving you a goat takes milk away from my children and cheese and meat off of the tables. I will sacrifice this bird that I must pay this copper for out of the very few coppers that I have. It was a system that said, what you do that hurts others can be satisfied by the proper sacrifice. And humans, being humans, changed that story into do whatever you want, scrape up what you have a sacrifice made on your behalf, and all will be well. Which, move forward a few thousand years and look around you, you will know that's not really a great system. Never did, never will work all that well. But the idea was sacrifice solved problems. Today you call that no pain, no gain. I must suffer to have good things in my life. So those who were guardians of this world took a look around and said, you know, that old system needs to change. It has become one of abuse. and power over. The human heart is not changing into the light that it can be. The human heart is instead learning how to get by, how to wiggle it through, how to make it work. They've gotten really sucked into the human, they are, and are forgetting the light, the spirit they truly are. So, as is the case at times of great transition, 12 of the avataric function line came to the world, with one being the initial opportunity for change. The first one who said, I'll go. Scattered about the world, and if you will look back into your histories, you will see that around the time of the great birth of Jesus, there were in other cultures quite miraculous births as well. Not where I'm going tonight, but nevertheless. But one of them was the child of Miriam and Joseph. The baby, Jesus. That baby's job was not to grow up into a happy child and a popular man. It was recognized from the beginning that coming to the planet was going to be a real sacrifice. Not a sacrifice like trade a dove for a copper, but a sacrifice as in you're going to forget what you're here for. You're going to get so involved in the sensual wonderland of what you see and hear and feel. You're going to get caught up in obligations and belief structures. And we're just going to hope you remember. Because once you go, we will disavow any knowledge of your mission.
This tape will self-destruct.
It wasn't an easy life back then. But somewhere your Jesus became a soldier of sorts. Certainly a troublemaker. Because Jesus never forgot. Came into the world remembering. And had a really radical message to give. And that message was, I will be the ultimate sacrifice. Take me. Because from that point forward, the old system was changed and something new was born into the world because of that baby. And that was a system in which, as he said, the greatest teaching was to love one another. To love your neighbor the same way you love yourself. To treat those who have less status than you with love. To believe in love. What was born was a new way of believing. No longer was it sacrifice this goat and maybe the gods will hear you. It was believe that that sacrifice was enough. Now that sounds sort of like examine your intent, because what you believe will be in your life. Jesus' intention was to change the system. And many were changed. Now, the baby wasn't the one who did that. The adult wasn't the one who did that. It was that one who, in their mid-adulthood, said, I really mean this. I'm putting myself on the line here. I will die for you. The baby was a good baby, good child. Probably a good teenager, if there is such a thing, a good adult, but became the change by sacrificing himself. The baby was born so the man could die. Christmas happens because not the birth happened, because the death happened. Now, if you grew up in the Christian faith, you would be quick to remind me that it wasn't just the death, it was the return from death. And I'm good with that. Because for any death, there must be a return or there is no change. You're not asked to simply believe that Jesus came and did good things and died. But as a Christian, you would be asked to believe that he returned from the dead, and that alone would change things. And did. Now, do you think that, the Roman soldiers out in Mesopotamia said, what? Somebody was crucified and came back to life? Really? Probably not. It was those who were nearby who were touched by it. And what they learned spread out to those who were nearby them, and on that way. You have the whole nativity story today because somebody's life was changed and it affected somebody else, and that affected somebody else and else and else. So you're off in a spaceship, all right? And you're losing all of your spaceship's power. And the only thing that will save the spaceship and all 50,000 people on that spaceship will be if one person is willing to sacrifice themselves to, I don't know, what would you need to do? Jump into the power converter and restart it. Would you do it? Maybe. But only if you are not thinking of yourself. You'd only do it if you had that bigger picture that said, one life or 50,000 lives, or 49,999 lives. The death itself, even the coming back from the dead, doesn't make the difference. As the ancients would tell you, every story has a miracle birth, a death, and a resurrection. It's the plot line of the time. Look into your ancient history. Read what every major religion of the time and even today is based on. It's not an unfamiliar story. That's not why you have Christmas. You have Christmas because the experience changed those who were nearby. And they changed those who were near to them, and they changed those who were near to them. And it expanded. Don't get me started on the books that are revered so strongly today were written so far after that death that you cannot look at it and say, aye, well, this was exactly what was said, and when it was said, you would not do that for anything else. Not the point. The point is, these are people who were changed. Changed so much by what they understood this person said, did, lived, and how it had affected those around that person, that they wanted to celebrate that birth. Now, you might have birthday parties, but I would say Christmas is a pretty big birthday party. into this world, avataric function, brought hope. Hope grew up. Hope lived and ate and breathed, trained. Hope lived a human life, always recognizing, I'm not here for this. There is more. Hope gave, died, returned. Or to say it in a more practical way, hope changed the lives of those who were around him. It hope. Enough that people noticed. And eventually, while of course 1,000 different versions of the story are what you are given today, it keeps playing. It keeps changing lives. The story keeps hope going. And humans being humans tell you that it's because of the birth, that it's because of the death. But I would tell you it's because the ones who were around that one got it. They saw the possibility. They recognized the gift. They were willing to change. Stand up. Speak up. And because of that, your world celebrates Christmas. The birth of the avataric hope for this world. That was the last time avataric energy came forth in a group of 12 onto your planet. The last Messiah. It's the accurate way to describe what Jesus was, the last Messiah, in a world that had many of them. Because the change at that point meant that no longer would any one spirit be the focus of change. That instead it would come one by one by one into the world as a whole. And that change in this place would spread out from the individuals who have been touched by that change, by the love they have lived, the wisdom they have gained. The lives that they have touched. And they do call them guardians. Oh, for a long time they called them guardian angels. No longer having one to follow, one to support, one to lift up. Instead, guardians in mass are one. And I think that Christmas is a really good time to see your guardian self in that manger. To see your guardian self growing up, becoming a man. Sacrificing what was for what can be, and touching lives around you. It's how the world changes. It's not preaching to the masses on the shores of Galilee. It's changing the world one person at a time. The gift you give this world by your presence here is what Christmas now should be about. Your birth into a spiritual humanity, a change from the old into a new reality. A release of the old illusion to be the new Messiah. Bringing with you that old message made new. Love is what you are. Love is all that it's about. Loving all, always, is the challenge, and it is the sacrifice. Do you know what Christ is?
The Anointed One.
The Anointed One.
Sure.
It's the one who said yes. It's the title of the one who volunteered. I think Kathy Christ sounds pretty good, don't you think? It's your birthday. Have a life that makes that much of a difference. You can change this world. You change this world by changing yourself. But you can only change yourself with love. One by one by one, you change this world. You change it by being the light and the standard bearer of a new way of seeing your world. Or you change it, and you do, by hiding your light and saying no. The ones who say no don't get celebrated. They don't get remembered. They don't have 3/4 of the world. Oh yeah, all right, half the world wishing a very happy birthday to one who mattered. Close out this year as one who matters, who makes a difference, who lives the love you are here to be. Happy, happy Christmas. Chris Mary and Chris Susie and Christ Frank and Christ Mary Claire. Happy, happy Christmas. Look in your mirror.